Welcome to the Apex Racing TV Weekly Roundup podcast, your surefire way of keeping up to date with all of Apex Racing TV's broadcasted series. This week, we talk about the season finales in the BSR MX5 Pro Series, the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series, and the Year of the 8 Supercar Series. We'll also discuss the latest around the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship and the upcoming iRacing 2020 Season 1 build. So without further ado, let's jump into the action with your hosts Sam Fitzpatrick and Marco Barbanera. Welcome, Marco, to another week of this Apex Racing TV Weekly Roundup podcast. And we are going to be discussing 4 more series this week. And it's coming to the end of the championship. A lot of championships being decided this week. And we love these dramatic moments on Apex Racing TV. It's provided some great action.
Absolutely. It has been a crazy week. We have seen several titles being decided and drama all over the place. Certainly, of course, for most of the series now, there's going to be either the 1 week break for week 13 or for other series that we cover a long winter break. So it's a bit sad, but we're already getting ready with our plans for 2020. And of course, as you know, in iRacing 2020 starts a bit earlier.
Yes, of course. It's very excited about the next season. But the first series we'll talk about has been going on not just this season, but since since last year potentially. The BSR MX5 Championship season finale at New Hampshire. I'm not quite sure what the logic was to host it at New Hampshire. I must say, Marco, though, I really like the circuit. I've never raced around there before. I've never driven there, but I don't think I even own the circuit. But to look at it, it looks really fun. A lot of banked corners. The infield sections look quite fun. I don't know if you've got some experience around there in the Skippy.
Yes, it is by far the best roval in the world. Even though it's not technically, it's tough to classify it as a roval, Sam, because if you look at that, the track actually goes out of the oval proper and goes into, it's basically, I think this track has this characteristic, and I think the old Texas World Speedway, not to be confused with Texas Motor Speedway, had this characteristic, the track that takes a detour from the oval. And I mean, it looks like you are in Spa or Road America, the way the track flows up and down. It reminds me a bit also of Mid-Ohio. There are some beautiful corners, and certainly not your prototypical, road course, North American style, basically on the inside of the oval, very flat, basically a parking lot circuit most of the times. So yeah, beautiful scenario to stage the finale of what has been a long and a very grinding season for these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the end, in each of the races, it was race 1, Jason Cooper winning out with Adam Delmont in second place, Jack Ashton in third. Then race 2 went to Luke Cooper instead, with Steve Baxter in second and Jack Ashton in third. Race 3 went to Ashley Beard. Adam McNally was in second, and Jason Cooper again returning to the podium in third. And then in race 4, Rob Graham won out ahead of Steve Hefford and Luke Cooper. So the Cooper brothers doing pretty well. But really, the bigger picture was the championship, as you were saying, Marco, a massively long championship. The showdown kind of reset the points a bit, but of course they do get bonus points for race wins and podiums throughout the normal season going into the showdown races. And so I think really Ashton and Jason Cooper had quite a lead anyway, and in the end, it was Jason Cooper who managed to win out in the championship. Jack Ashton actually finishing in second place, and Brian Holmes finishing in third. So, terrific season for Cooper, Marco. Really impressive campaign put forward by him. He's got quite a bit of experience in the car, I believe. Also branched out into the TCR car as well. But I mean, the MX5 Championship, it's such extreme driving style you got to have. It's not the pace in the car. Of course, he is extremely quick in the car. He can do very well in those race ones. But when you've got three massive reverse grids in such a league, which is, a lots of contacts amongst the drivers, that can almost be thrown out the window. And for Luke Cooper, especially in the showdown races, to continue his form from the normal season and deliver those points, that is mega impressive.
I mean, if you look at the statistics which have been posted by Jamie Ayres, one of the league organizers, in the group that we have the privilege to read, we have to be a part of. I mean, the season, like you said, 36 rounds, 4 races each, so 123 races in the end, more or less. I think they got only 3 races in at the Nordschleife, if I'm not mistaken. So that's why the number is odd number. But apart from that, Jason Cooper won 28 races. Like Jack Ashton, who finished an excellent second, only at 13. But more importantly, uh, he was Jason Cooper second in the percentage of finishes. 92% of the races he finished, which is
Wow.
incredible. The most podiums with 37, the most top 10s with 75. The most top 20s were done by Jack Ashton, and the most 0x races, unsurprisingly, to Mr. Regular himself, Scott Malcolm, who, I mean, this is his characteristic basically, but this goes to show, yes, I can tell you that if Jason Cooper had 28 wins, but he had a 50% finish rate, he would not have won the title. Being consistent, especially in such a long season, 36 weeks, is basically almost a full calendar year. It's certainly the key. Being quick and consistent, and it's very, very tough to get to be quick and consistent, especially in a single make series, like you were saying before, and with the basically guaranteed massive reversals that we get in race 2, 3, and 4. So massive congratulations to Jason Cooper, because that was a dominant season, despite a great effort from Jack Ashton. I mean, 13 wins is a great number, and Jack Ashton 92 top 20s, so he scored the points basically almost every race. But in the end, Cooper prevailed, and it is going to be tough, I think, to replicate this kind of numbers for any kind of driver, even Cooper himself, maybe when the season 2021 comes around.
Yeah, and so in the I mean he's going to be favorite for next year. I mean it's such a long season. Apparently they might shorten it down to just individual seasons, and then maybe have like a little bit of an additional, who's won the most races in the past 3 seasons, a bit like here. But I think there'll be greater importance and maybe some mini series. I say mini series, 12-week series rather than the full 36. But we'll see how it is. So Cooper, will he commit to next season? Lots of time and effort, but I'm sure he's had a lot of fun this season. In the amateur championships, Ben Mears came out on top. Of course, we've seen him win the amateur championship before in season 2 of the Sim Racers World GT Championship. Carl Hardy finished in second place there, and Juran Ursum finishing in third. So, good job from them guys. And Ben Mears, who maybe hasn't had quite as the success in that Sim Racers World GT series, Marco. But I mean, in the MX5, he's really showing how terrific racecraft he's got. And again, that championship, I think he was about 150 points clear in the end, which is a decent margin, particularly when the showdown is only just a few weeks long.
Yes, another good effort from Benjamin, and shows that really he can be a great driver, even though maybe not necessarily for the overall, but to each their own. I mean, I would give, I don't know, 500 euros to win a race in the amateur class in the MX5. So there is certainly nothing bad in being the best of the amateurs. Congratulations to him once again. When you start winning titles in different championship, different leagues with different cars, it's a sign that you are a very versatile driver, and it is not as easy as it sounds. So congratulations to him. Great victory for him, and Well, hopefully we'll come back to defend the crown next season.
Yes, although I imagine he might well get a bit of a promotion. I'm sure he's going to be very competitive though in the top class as well. I think he finished. Actually, it's very difficult to tell because all the points are reset at the showdown. But I'm sure he would have been close to the top 10 even as a pro driver. So very impressive from Ben Mears. The team's championship was the closest though, and I think maybe the one with the most pride. I'm hesitant to say the most importance because I'm sure the drivers will decide that for themselves. But Excite iRacing and Swift Cooper Esports. I'm not sure if you've covered any of the rounds this season, Marco, but whenever I did rounds, I probably did probably over 10 of them in the end. They were always at the front, particularly race one. If anyone else was in the top 5, it was a bit of a surprise. Those two teams really close. And of course, Showdown affects this a bit. So I think you can basically take probably 50,000 points from these guys' points, but still 67,529 points to 67,404 points. I mean, there were 2,000 points clear of the next pro team, and there are 100 points between them. That is ridiculously close, Marco, and hopefully we'll see that rivalry continue, not only in the BSR MX5 series, but also the other series as well on Apex Racing TV.
Yeah, remember, I covered only one round this season, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's been such a long season.
Yeah, I think it was Snetterton, I think.
So maybe I did two, because I remember doing Mid Ohio, so maybe I did also Snetterton. It's such a long season. Snetterton was a long time ago, whilst Mid Ohio was like 1 month ago, so it was easier to remember for me. But yeah, certainly, the two top teams, I think they have been this season. So it is. It was a beautiful battle to follow all season long. I think I think Excite also won last season the team championship. I might be wrong, with Ryan Walker driving among the ranks. I remember this for this fact, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I'm quite unsure about that, to be honest, but no, you may well be correct. I think they've been at the top of that series for a while now. And of course, a relatively new team, I think, Excite, only a couple of years old. They really have impressed. In the Championship, Teams Championship, Result Clothing won out. Of course, Team Automech Knockhill won the driver's title with Ben Mears. And Year One Racing in third place. That's a nice result for Result Clothing. Some of their top drivers work hard, who finished second place actually in the Amsterdams, and actually they occupy 3 of the top 5 drivers, along with Scott Malcolm and Rafe Cullinan. So nice season put together by those guys, and also Team Automech as well, Marco. We've already talked about them before in a previous podcast, how much they've improved, particularly on the Thursday nights. And yeah, really giving Result Clothing a decent challenge. But I mean, when you got the experience of Hardy, Malcolm, and Cullen, and that's a difficult combination to beat.
It is absolutely a difficult combination to beat. It's great that on a personal point, you see these drivers. They have been, especially these drivers, fighting for the amateur. The teams are also fighting more than the drivers. Fighting for the amateur title in the Pro Series. Most of them were, regular presence in the old Monday night amateur series, which I had the pleasure to cover basically since the start of the championship history, and to see on a personal note Result Clothing and also year one, a team that was born out of drivers who were racing in that league, the Monday League, and then say, why don't we stay together and form a team? And I mean, they certainly made some great strides. Their livery is unique. I mean, it's pretty easy to recognize, and also they sponsored. They sponsor Fury now, so basically the two teams tend to work together a lot. They have some great drivers in their ranks, so to see these guys start from random privateers to building a solid team, finish third in the championship this season is a big pleasure.
So yeah, absolutely fantastic results for all those teams then in the amateur standings. I guess next season then, some words about what the car will be used for the winter series on the Tuesday night. Won't necessarily be the MX5 because the GT4 car unfortunately not going to be released. But any ideas, Mark, on what that league could host? Maybe GT3, GTE, perhaps even go back to the Jetta. I mean, yeah, the world is their awesome. But maybe we go back to the Kia.
I heard some rumors, which I cannot say what my source is, but the talk was between going back to the MX5 or GT1. So could be
Oh,
an interesting
okay.
interesting season.
New tire model, of
Yeah,
course.
on the GT1s, absolutely. And I'm a bit sad because on Saturday, the 30th of November, in the early afternoon, I was so excited because I was penciled for an Italian endurance special event with the HPD and the GT1 cars, but sadly they haven't had to be postponed. And I was so excited because I'm really missing the growl of the Corvette and the more, aspirated but still very good sound of the Aston Martin DBR9. So it would be great to have those cars back on our screens on Apex Racing TV.
Yeah, it certainly would. Of course, kind of being shoved to the back, seeing that there's been so many other cars being released, and of course, the older versions of the GTE cars. So hopefully, yeah, that would be an incredible decision over the winter. Might well have to get involved in that myself, but I think that's pretty much it for the BSR MX5 series for the year, and we look forward on Apex Racing TV to looking forward to probably 13 weeks time until the next proper season starts, and also the winter series as well coming up very soon. So next up, we'll have a chat about the Aussie Mixed and Fixed series, another season finale. Marco, you managed to see all of the race. I just caught the last 10 minutes, which was probably where the majority of the championship action at least happened. But we'll have a quick word on the race on a whole. Van Gisbergen, fantastic to see him back in the series. Took part at Montreal, got second place there, very close to first place as well. And he went one better this time for the season finale at Silverstone. Started second place, got past Danny Davison right at the start, and after that, it was pretty comfortable for Van Gisbergen. Of course, Davison very close on his toe all the way. A little bit like Barcelona, I'd say, is Silverstone, where particularly in GT cars, it's surprisingly tricky to overtake just because you got long straights and they're not big braking zones. And Van Gisbergen managed to hold off right to the end to cap off a nice kind of casual season, I guess, for him. Hasn't been able to take part in too many of the rounds. And it's just incredible to see these real-life drivers hopping in, particularly in a fixed setup series, and delivering. Just shows how iRacing replicates real life so much.
Yes, I was surprised to see Van Gisbergen there. I know he raced in the past, but the way this series works, they have two splits, not one. So basically, you sign up for the race and you hope to be in the top split. Basically, that's the way it works. Then the points are scored in both splits. That's why you see the championship standings. They have four classes, so you might ask yourself, where are all the drivers? There are two splits of that. So before the start of the race, then the race started, and there he goes. Shane Van Gisbergen, Supercar champion from New Zealand. And yeah, he took the lead straight away. It was a very good fight, I think. He was able to stay in the lead, but not by much. In the end, it was a comfortable victory, but he was always one mistake away from losing the lead of the race. And of course, then all eyes were both on the fight for the lead and on the fight for the championship, which got basically down the wire. It was an absolutely amazing fight between Edwards and Latimore. Absolutely amazing way to finish the season. And I mean, I cannot. This has been a very, 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 very long season. So to finish on basically 3, 4 corners to go, it was incredible.
Yeah, so we'll set the scene a little bit. I think this was the battle over 6th and 7th place. So going into the last rounds of the championship, got the standings here. Latimore was on 4,836 points. Edwards was on 4,829 points. So 7 points the difference. This is for the pro title. And in the race, Latimore was leading Edwards. I think this, like I said, 6th and 7th places these guys were running. And Latimore was holding off Edwards for a few laps prior. And Edwards knew if he could get past, not taking into account penalty points or anything, or count back, not including penalty points, he would tie Stephen Latimore for the title. And then it'd go back to race wins, second places, fastest laps apparently was the third tiebreaker. And with half a lap to go coming out of Luffields, I believe it was, a mistake from Latimore losing the rear end of the car, and it allowed Edwards through. And across the line, I think the commentators were a little bit confused because, of course, it was a tie and no one really knew who was actually ahead in the championship. I mean, when you got thousands of points and it's come down to nothing is quite exceptional. But then after the race, I say after the race, it was during the race, but if the drivers get no instant points, then they get some bonus points. Neither of them managed to claim them. However, if you get more than 15 instant points, then you get a 5-point penalty. And Craig Edwards, it was Craig Edwards got 14 incidents compared to Stephen Latimore's 16 incidents, and therefore Latimore got a 5-point penalty, and he lost the championship by 5 points. That's, not many people kind of get into that situation, Marco, where you lose the championship in such a circumstance. But I imagine Stephen will be frustrating himself because he was holding back Edwards so well in those closing stages. I mean, it really looked like he had him in his pocket, and then it was an unforced error whilst he was about half a second ahead, which gave up that track position. And if he'd held on to that, he would have won the title.
Yes, I was surprised to see that kind of mistake. Maybe the tires were gone, but he had a very, very, very bad slide through the corner. It almost looked like, something you would do to let another driver by, but no, of course that wasn't the case. It just was a play mistake. Sometimes the pressure can really be bad, and makes you make bad mistakes. And I think that's what happened. Absolutely heartbreak for him. I want to say a big thanks to Ryan Kolstad, league organizer who during the post-race interviews did the calculations for us in order to have the result in somewhat real time. I would imagine also the drivers would have loved to know how the season ended. And I mean, it has been a great surprise this series, mostly because of the time zone differences, etc. I have never heard of this series before it became a regular fixture on our channel, but I think now it's one of the best series we have, and organization is great, and also the fact that they provide a fixed setup each week for the 4 GT cars really shows, and using that also as a matter of balance of performance between the cars, really shows how much these organizers care and spend a lot of time trying to get, it's very tough to get a fixed setup that is, good for 60 drivers, so fantastic job. Drivers of all experience, pro-am, amateur, and rookies. So I cannot even begin to comprehend the amount of work that goes behind that. So congratulations to the organizers, to a fantastic season, and I cannot wait for the next one, which should start, if I am not mistaken, reading from what our colleague Scott Newton told us on our channels. The new season will start on January the 5th, so a 1 month break. That I think it's perfect, especially because it comes together with the winter holidays.
Yes, always try to avoid that area. I must say, I am a bit disappointed how few series we're going to have over Christmas, because I mean, what else are we going to be doing apart from Christmas shopping and all that horrendous stuff? We need some racing, but most of the series kind of going into hibernation over that period.
IndyCar
And
will be on, so
good. The official series will still be on, won't
yeah.
they? So we'll just broadcast official series 24/7 and some fun events as well. Certainly looking forward to that. So yeah, that will be coming back in January, and I mean, we can't recommend enough to get involved. Like Michael was saying, multiple splits. So at the start of next season, expect probably 100 odd people to sign up. So you're going to do well to get into the broadcasted series, and even then, you're probably going to be quite near the back, just because of the competitiveness of this field. But of course, you have got a chance because it's a fixed setup series. It doesn't necessarily require tens of hours of work before each and every race. You can hop in and should be onto the pace, hopefully, quite quickly. So it's a superb series to get involved in. So at the end of season 9, then, the winner in the pro class is Craig Edwards. Then in the second division, I believe the pro-am, Dave Clements. Then in the amateur championship, Leigh van der Berg. And in the rookies, Martin Crisp. I think we went through all but, the pro standings last week as well, just because they had built up a decent margin over the course of the 12 meetings. And that is another season in the books for the Aussie Mixed and Fixed Championship. Really looking forward to that returning next year. So next we will chat about iRacing and Apex Racing League. We've had plenty to talk about these last couple of weeks, Marco, with the announcement of the V8 Supercars, the Skippy, Lime Rock, of course. Being a little bit more quiet, though, this week. As far as I'm aware, no announcements. I'm not sure if maybe the announcement that the GT4 definitely isn't coming. I'm not sure if that was this week. But not too many announcements about anything new that is coming for next season, as far as I've seen.
I think we had the official announcement of the V8s. I think last week it was just a forum post we talked about, and of course we got those, I would say, beautiful pictures of the Ford, and yeah, also the pictures of the Commodore, but mostly the pictures of the Ford. Of course, I'm joking. They are two beautiful, beautiful cars, and I cannot wait to have them out, which is going to be, of course.
Are they going to be identical?
This is a very good question, which I think they are going to be identical, but
okay.
But that is my idea. Take it with a pinch of salt. We don't know how they are going to be in the end. But if the story is the same as the old cars, they are going to be the same as the old cars. So of course, brand new physics, brand new tires, hopefully brand new damage model. But who knows about? I mean, my speculation again, it is going to be similar, if not identical, physics.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, they look pretty different, of course, so it will be nice and simple to identify each one. And, well, I guess it'll be easy to identify because all the ones at the front will be the Fords. So you can nicely divide the championship like that. Of course, we've got a few series, a new series, I think, on Apex Racing TV, perhaps involving the V8 Supercar. And, of course, the Euro V8 as well will be taking parts in the new Supercar. So that'll be fantastic. And if you want to start painting up your V8 Supercar, then I believe the files are available. So we recommend getting started on that, especially if there's. I heard they.
I mean, they put the olden they put the olden template on the. Basically, you have in the iRacing paint shop, you can download like a full collection of all the templates. If you downloaded that, and up until a few days ago, you got also the olden template. Then it got removed, but some people were able to save it, and it's making the rounds on Discord and on some external websites. I don't know about the Ford. Usually they publish the templates around the day before the build comes out. We'll see. Certainly, I am I'm going to wait until the cars are officially out to get the template. There might be some last minute changes, etc.
Yes. I mean, I've accidentally ran like GTE paints on GT3 cars before, and it doesn't look great, safe to say. So maybe best to wait until the proper format is out if they are making a few small changes. But in terms of iRacing, I think that's pretty much it. Still waiting for that single seater series. Hopefully, that will be a World Championship thing.
We have a new
I mean,
news. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. Maybe
breaking news.
well, not breaking news. It's certainly something we
Okay.
haven't talked about last week. The new tire model is coming to new cars next season, and it is coming to the A, B, and C NASCAR cars. So
Okay.
straight away on the A and the C class, and understandably on the B class, it is going to come when the Pro Series is over, because it wouldn't be fair for the drivers to have a change of tire model midway through the Pro Series. So big news there, of course, and cannot wait to see how it will work, especially with the cautions. First few laps after a restart, you will have to be careful. The tires won't be at the highest, at the correct pressure. They will be, a bit colder. No tire warmers, of course, in NASCAR. So that's a pretty big news. And if iRacing rolls out the new tire model on the NASCAR trio, the three basically because you get the Road to Pro you do with the truck, the Pro Series with the B, and of course the peak antifreeze with the A class. So NASCAR have this very smart and realistic pyramid to get on the top. So if they roll it out on basically the top three cars on our side, they must be pretty confident that it works well, which is of course good for every one of us, because it means that they are getting a better understanding of how the tires work, and hopefully we'll get new tire model also. Well, not hopefully. I think it's a given. It will be available on the V8s. So fingers crossed for that, and hopefully the new damage model as well on the V8s. I think it's a good possibility.
Yes. In terms of Apex Racing League, still no Week 13 event announced. Honestly, the people who are in charge of that really ought to get on with
They don't know what they're
announcing
doing.
something.
I mean,
I honestly, it's a joke. It is a joke. The organization of Apex Racing Leagues. Really hope it improves. But the American GT series apparently somehow went correct, despite the head of that being an imbecile. And it was a bit chaotic, Marco. I don't know if you saw any of the American GT series, and we won't talk about it too much because we've got other series to talk about. But just a quick glance at it. I mean, it seems like the format works decent and nice turnout, 55 cars.
I didn't catch a lot of the racing, but I of course had a friend racing in there, and he gave me
He did very
very
well.
yes, and he gave me very big praise for the series. He said he had a lot of fun in the championship. Um, his only complaint was that he races with a Thai license, and despite putting Thailand in the registration format, he still has the Italian flag on his graphics. So he gave me like 100 points down on the organizers for that. I wonder who they are. But apart from that, he said the on race was absolutely tons of fun, and of course with these cars, beautiful, and these beautiful tracks, you cannot really go wrong.
Absolutely. Like I said, the organisers are imbeciles, so it's hardly surprising, to be honest. But no, keep your eyes peeled on certainly Apex Racing TV Facebook page for more details, perhaps on Week 13 events and maybe some more future series as well. Also, just a quick shout. This isn't to do with really anything, but of course, if you're interested in taking part in the Sim Racers World Enduro series, sign up. There are sign up details on our Facebook page. Still a few entries open in each of the classes, and that starts on Sunday. 6 1,000-kilometer rounds, 3 classes, 1 round every month. And it'll be broadcasted by us, of course, on Apex Racing TV. So I thoroughly recommend that. But you'll have to be quick on it because, like I said, season starts on Sunday. You could sign up after that as well and starts for round 2. We will go towards the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship, and this week held at Phillip Island. Fortunately, one of the tracks we still haven't done a camera pack for, but fortunately, the default cameras aren't too bad for there. And I must say, Mark, I mean, considering that I commentate on sim racing, I don't watch too much of it myself, but I was glued to the racing on Thursday. I watched it back today. And race 1 in particular was absolutely enthralling. We had some of the absolute best drivers who have won many different races in this championship. Baker, Foggy, Sawidovic, all fighting it out. And yeah, it was pretty insane to watch.
I mean, again, the series, I think it has 5 rounds left after this one. So still to be decided. Grid size, but even though it's coming towards the end, the grid size still very, very big. And I mean, when you put so many great drivers in a fun car to drive on a track like Phillip Island, who has his fantastic racing pedigree, especially with touring cars, even though the V8s are a bit more than touring cars, but still the you know what I mean. The result can only be this. There were 3 fantastic races. I mean, the fact that track's so flowing, but with a front wheel drive car, you can really get the best out of it. And the train like nature of these races made it for some fantastic view. And I think, I mean, I saw the view count for the video and on the iRacing Esports Network. I think many people enjoyed the show, and like we said, like I said many times in the previous episodes, at the risk of repeating myself, there's been, I would say, as expected, an oversaturation, of TCR series, both broadcasted and not broadcasted. And on top of that, there is also the official series, which is shown live, the top split on Friday nights. So to still have these many drivers come the end of the race, come the end of the season. Sorry, I mean 40 plus drivers come the end of the season. It's a testament to how good the league is organized and how fun the drivers are having.
yeah, it's been really successful so far. And I mean, we've still got about 50 drivers taking part in each round, which is fantastic. Also, a few new drivers, I think, taking part as well. Entries kind of reopening for that, just as a handful of drivers drop out, and we're kind of being able to supplement them as well quite nicely. So, really strong is the series. And like I said, race one, absolutely brilliant to watch. I'll read out the notes that I had. So, on pole position was. He was on pole position. That's not a good start. Was it? It was one of the CQR drivers, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
it's
the
here.
the pole
Sutton.
sitter was
Was it?
Sutton in front of Baker, so they had a lockout.
There you go.
Then,
Yeah, Sutton got an awful start though, and actually had a pretty awful day. So we probably won't speak about him too much after this. Baker starts in second place, got the lead straight away. Foggy got up into second place as well. Then Sawidovic managed to move up into the lead. Foggy got back though, and then Sawidovic, after a few really good attempts into turn one, I mean, the side-by-side actually get through turn one at Phillip Island is absolutely brilliant. He managed to finally get it back. But then, on the penultimate lap, he lost it again. A little bit of contact between the two of them going around the mid part of the track. And that just pushed Sawidovic a bit offline. Fell about 6/10 or even 7/10 of a second back. But as you were saying earlier on, Marco, the slipstream effect really helped him. And on that last lap, he gained by 6/10 of a second, but still lost out by 1/10. So it was Foggy winning ahead of Sawidovic in the end. And I mean, we said it a few weeks ago, Marco. Sawidovic was going to get his form back, and absolutely today, as we'll chat about in a little bit with race 2 and 3, he is right back at the top of his form, and I believe he's now up into 14th place in the championship. He is 13th place in the championship, and he needs top 12. In fact, actually, he's 12th out of the pro drivers, so he's gone up 6 places in that championship in that one round, and all of a sudden, unfortunate to the other drivers, he's going to be a massive factor in the showdown starting in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely, and the importance of having a showdown, of course, is really, really explained and showed by the fact that yes, you can have a bad season, but once you get into those final, group of drivers that is eligible for the showdown, basically you have a do-over for your season. Everyone starts sort of on the same footing because, of course, there are bonus points that you start with. But great from him, and the same thing that we talked about. We talk about, I think, later with the V8s, the new car. I mean, there's bound to be a little bit of shuffling. And for some drivers, it's love, basically the moment they jump on the car, and other drivers, they will have to adapt a bit. And I think Wojciech is one of those guys that are in the second group because no one can question his talent and his speed.
Yeah, so he's really starting to hit some nice form now. Race 2, this was, again, massively entertaining. Really was entertaining. So Sven Glatzel was from the lead. Adam and Woody were saying, well, he's certainly the favourite for this. And he had a brilliant start. Pulled out probably about 2.5 seconds in just over a lap. In just over, pretty much a lap. And then I believe it was on lap 3, he managed to drop it at the Honda hairpin, the first hairpin, and fell back to about 5th place. Managed to fight his way back up though to the lead, and then a very dramatic finale. I'll read through my notes. So he gets, Glatzel got back to the lead. Then George Simmons taps him on the last lap. However, that he let him back past, to be fair. And then Glatzel, with another mistake at the second hairpin, just ran a little bit wide, and George Simmons managed to get alongside and ahead again, probably about 0.2 of a second, in fact 1/10 of a second across the line between those two drivers. So nice win there for George Simmons. And yeah, that was race 2. And then race 3, unfortunately, I didn't manage to catch race 3, but again, Sawidovic on top. Rusty Laidler, superb result in second place. He's getting on well with that TCR car, it seems. And Jack Sedgwick rounding out the podium in that race. In the championship, then, Jack Sedgwick, 39 points clear of Ross McFarlane. Of course, for those guys, with one more round to go of the normal season before the showdown, they're secured. So all about just getting some podiums, get some get some bonus points for the showdown races. Pretty much though, 7th place back. So Chris Wood, George Simmons, Johnny Brandon, Pete Harrod, Ben Palmer, Wojciech Sawidovic, Miguel Freitas, Adam Hadfield, Jason Cooper, and Michael Hall. Those guys still all have a chance at qualifying for the showdown at the moment, Marco. And I mean, I'm not sure if you got the standings on your screen, but it's incredible to see the qualities of drivers who aren't in the showdown. So Wojciech Sawidovic literally only just in at the moment. And then we've got Miguel Freitas, a veteran of the series. He's out of it at the moment. Then we've got Adam Hadfield, Jason Cooper, who we were complimenting earlier on, winning the BSR MX5 title. He's out of the standings at the moment. So incredibly impressive. Also Alex Simpson, of course, who unfortunately couldn't race, I think, at Phillip Island. But, of course, World Championship driver, he's out of it at the moment. So incredible standard again.
Yeah, Alex Simpson finished second last season in the pro or amateur. I think it was the pro. No, the pro classification.
Yeah, that was 2 seasons ago, wasn't it?
2 seasons. Oh man, I'm getting older.
It was just over a year ago.
Yeah, of course, because this season was shorter. Of course, I'm talking
shorter,
about the BSRTC series, this is the spiritual successor, of course, on the same day and the same time slot, different name, but basically this is the big one. Everyone wants to win this one, the premier TCR series on iRacing so far. But yeah, so it goes to show, like I said, the quality of the field is crazy, the championship is tight, and the showdown, of course, will put, like I said, almost everyone that makes it on a somewhat level playing field. And it's going to be a great way to spend these final few weeks of the season before the proper series starts. Of course, longer calendar coming for 2020.
Yes, and I've just looked at the regulations. Actually, it's not the top 12 you get in. I think that was last season's rules. Actually, it's only the top 10. So even fewer drivers get in. Currently, the gap between 10th and 11th is Harrod and Palmer, both for Sim Sports Racing USA. 2 points, 1,610 points to 1,608 points in that. So Sawidovic needs to work hard. He needs to make up about 30 points in order to get into the top 10. So a no score for him next week, and that really would be his chances gone. So really very close in that. Top 8 AM drivers also get through to the showdown. Adam Hedgecock currently leading that the way in that. In terms of drivers who are safe, probably the top 5, so up to Michael Blake are safe. But then after that, Paul Smith in 6th, Roberts in 7th, Simon Field in 8th, Van Broek in 9th, and Adam McNally in 10th. And also probably throwing Rob Graham as well in 11th. All have got a chance. So certainly do recommend checking that out. Of course, we've got a break week for week 13, but that will get back underway in 1.5 weeks' time for the final round before the showdown. Next up, we'll talk about the Euro V8 Championship. Final round of the championship again, Marco. And it was a brilliant race. I thought one of the best meetings of the season, actually. And there's been some pretty good ones. Over 20 cars taking the field. And I realised we've just been talking about 50 cars for the ARL TC. But of course, we've got to appreciate these are some old V8 supercars. And for the season to start off with mid-20s and to end with low 20s is incredible retainership. And Silverstone National was a fantastic host for the final round of the season, and personally my favorite super sprint race, or certainly my favorite season finale we've ever had in the series.
I mean, old cars, not very popular cars, on a Saturday night, so a lot of people would be out drinking and partying. fantastic to have 20 plus drivers for the final round of the season. And I have to say, Sam, I agree with you. A proper send off to the old ladies, the Olden Commodore and the Ford Falcon. They were, of course, on their last hooray, and the drivers did them justice. And once again, for the third straight year, it was an XVR driver winning the title. It was once again the year of Johnny Brandon, who won the title 2 seasons ago, finished second last season, and this season he got the title once again. And I have to say he was a deserved champion, even though we came to the final round with three drivers still with a shot at the title. Brandon himself, of course, George McClay for Fitztime Motorsport, and of course there was also for NQR Tony Klusterman, who sadly basically was in third place and sadly was taken out of the championship hunt immediately through no fault of his own before the start of race one.
Yeah, qualified in third place, I believe, or maybe even on the front row of the grid alongside Johnny Branton, but as you say, couldn't take the start. And in that race one was pretty chaotic. Johnny Brandon, he didn't feel any of it. They started from pole position. He's been terrific in qualifying this season. I'd love to see actually his and McNally's, his and McClay's championship or qualifying battle through the season, because I swear he's outqualified him by about half a tenth of a second in every single round. It's been quite incredible, the tightness between those two drivers. But Brandon on pole managed to pull away from the rest of the field, but then the battle behind that was immense. And George McClay, a driver who has kind of built this season, Marco, on just consistency, isn't necessarily the most aggressive driver in the world, usually just goes for the points game. Only had one race win. I say only one race win, but it kind of just shows his consistency of finishing in the top five going into that final round. And then all of a sudden, he came across quite aggressive. Very fair, of course, I'd say it was McClay, but he had a titanic battle with the hard charging Victor Tanaka in that race.
Yes, and unfortunately it ended up in big contact that cost Tanaka the race, whilst McClay was able to keep it on the track but losing some positions. In the end, Brandon won. Klusterman was able to jump back into the session, but with only a couple of laps left, so he wasn't even eligible for the reverse, and effectively being out of the championship. And so after race race one, the title was an affair between McClay and Brandon. And McClay, even though in the end wasn't able to win the title because in the second race Brandon secured it, still gave a pretty good show, and showed why he deserved to be at the front of the field in a spectacular race to fight with Tanaka.
Yeah, we were so looking forward to see that when we saw Tanaka again gaining a lot of places. Insane drive from Tanaka because he wasn't within the reverse grid in race one, and so he started behind all the front runners. Got past Johnny Brandon on the start. Incredible start for him, charging through the field, and got to the back of McClay. And I mean, we were talking to Johnny Brandon after the race, and he was just saying he wasn't going to get involved in that. And I mean, everyone was genuinely surprised that he didn't win that race, because the way that the top two were driving, it looked as though it was going to be chaos. But massive credit to Victor Tanaka in particular. He must have been getting pretty mad in that cockpit, and yet he never went for a bump and run, which is very possible around a circuit like Silverstone with the long corners. All you need to do is just let off the brake a little bit mid-corner, and you can have the lead. He never fell to that, though, did Victor Tanaka, and stayed in second place. McClay winning out on that one. And then race three, Johnny Brandon back to the top. I think he gained something like 10 places on the first couple of laps. Charged down Nikolai Bogotyrev, who had, I think, his best result of the season in second place with Chris Jackson, who Brandon had a little bit of a collide with, finishing in third place. Great to see the championship winner topping out at the end of the season, Marco. I think all the seasons that I've covered, 4, 5, 6, and now 7, I think that's the first season that the championship winner has actually won the final round of the season. So caps off a brilliant season for Johnny Branson, 8 wins over across the season, and just perfect from him. I kind of thought it was a little bit like, maybe not too much like F1 2003, because I'd say Brandon didn't make the mistakes that maybe Ferrari made that season. But there were so many other drivers who were kind of taking wins. A couple of them, Tanaka got a couple, McClay got a couple, Taliancic got, I think, 4 race victories, Klosterman got a few, Jackson got a few. Meanwhile, Brandon with an unassailable 8 race victories, and it was just a perfect season put together by him. Had barely any bad rounds, and he's a double champion now to match Tony Klosterman.
And of course, thanks to this final victory in the final round, in the final race, he also became the all-time wins leader in championship history. So certainly one of the best drivers in the history of the championship. And I agree with you. It has been a fantastic season on his part. Of course, now the future is very interesting because the new cars will certainly bring new drivers, and we'll see if some of the mid-pack drivers will use this as the chance to, make the jump from mid-pack to front runners. And we'll see who of the club championship, the quote-unquote amateur drivers, will be promoted to pro and maybe have their chance to stake a claim into these top 5, top 10 positions overall.
Yeah, I think that this season already has been quite a success, though, in terms of bringing those midfield drivers to the front, because I think last season we really hadn't had many race winners. I think that Jackson didn't win a race last season. You must have had, Foggy, Brandon, Klosterman, and that was pretty much it for the vast majority of the race. I'm sure there were a couple of others, but even George McClay had to wait until the very last race of the season to claim his first race victory, whereas, of course, we've had inaugural race wins for Gary Croft, who, of course, won the amateur championship, so congratulations, or the club championship, apologies, so congratulations to him. But we had him winning a race. We had Buzan winning, Stadler winning. Of course, Jackson getting back onto the score sheet. So a lot of different race winners this season, Marco, and it's been great to see that kind of unpredictability and so many more drivers having a chance out there.
This is what we want. I mean, fantastic. The way this championship is so. I mean, yes, the quick guys tend to stay at the front, but I love the fact that they have such a wide range of possible winners each race. So, and of course, once again, this big props to the organizers. Remember that they do everything basically out of passion. There is no fee to get signed up for this championship. So another great season for Euro V8.
Yeah, it sure was, and that should return in maybe about a month or so. We'll give details about that in the future. But I think that's pretty much rounds out this week's podcast, Marco. Next week, week 13, some new content coming, of course. And not many series, unfortunately. Still got the American GT Championship, and we've got I guess we don't have the official series, do we? So very, very few championships next week. A little bit there. But still, it's very exciting to test out this new content. Lime Rock, Skip Barber.
I hope you're waiting for my in-depth review of the Skip Barber Lime Rock. So
definitely, yes. I mean, I can't race it, seeing that I'm 200 miles away from my rig. So I'm gonna have to listen to you, unfortunately, when it comes to that. So you'll be our expert, I think, for next week. But what are you looking forward to most? Is it the Skippy, or are you going to be giving the V8 Supercars a try, or are you gonna step your foot into first?
I'm very surprised. Not surprised. Sorry, I am very excited to know if the Skippy will have physics changes or just cosmetic change. what this means for the damage model of the car, and of course the V8 is going to be the big question mark, because these cars are such a massive change from the old V8s that it could really be a big step in, I don't know if in the direction of quote unquote easier cars to drive, or difficult cars to drive. We will see, and we'll know more in just a few days when the new 2020 season 1 build releases.
Yeah, that will be great to see. New damage model, new tyre model for various cars, and hopefully everyone is looking forward to next season. We certainly are on Apex Racing TV, and of course we'll have loads of new seasons starting up at the after the break. Of course, got Christmas break, so a few series kind of hesitating until January, but I mean, I can't wait for that. That will be quite an influx of series getting back up and running, and starting to say goodbye to 2019. But hopefully you've enjoyed all of Apex Racing TV's coverage of the various series we've been talking about today. Plenty of season finales, and we say well done to everyone who has managed to claim a title and finished high up in the standings in each of those series. But from me and from Marco, we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you next week for another podcast. You've been listening to the Apex Racing TV Weekly Roundup podcast. Make sure to keep up with all our series via YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also check out the iRacing Esports Network, where we broadcast several days a week. See you next week for another podcast.